Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to DigiLabor YouTube channel. My name is Rafael Groman, Assistant Professor of Media Studies at University of Toronto. And today, especially, I'm based in Rio de Janeiro. This is the reason I'm in a stranger space for you. And today, I have the pleasure, the honor to introduce for you the amazing book, Algorithms of Resistance, published by MIT Press, authored by Tiziano, Bonini and Emiliano Trere. Emiliano is coming soon. I'd like to say hello to Tiziano. How are you?
Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I know how it's difficult to publish like book monography and like take some years of research. If you'd like to introduce yourself firstly to our audience, who is Tiziano Bonini and what's your research agenda?
I am a sociologist with a background in cultural studies and media studies, and I am focused. My research is focused on agency, media users agency, and more recently is focused on user agency. So my specific field of research is based on, in the last years, I always try to answer to this question: how much agency is still available in on the front of on the side of media users.
Amazing. Yeah, and you are publishing a lot with a lot of interesting articles too beyond this book. And for me, this book is a great contribution not only for platform studies but also for cultural studies. And you finished the book with Edward Palmer Thompson in this kind of platform working class. So this is so interesting. Especially this take of resistance and everyday tactics and everyday resistance. For those who are watching us today, we'll be in a more conversation format, more interview format. My first question for you, Tiziano, is why algorithms of resistance, or is it the algorithms that resist or the people?
It's of course the people that resist appropriating these algorithms in transforming or putting these algorithms at work for them. Also, we try to reveal our forms of what we call algorithmic agency. That again is not the agency of the algorithms, but is the agency that the people have in coping with algorithmic infrastructures and algorithmic power and algorithmic media. Is the way people learn how to put algorithms at work for their aims, for their objectives. So in a kind of, they do not only resist, they also simply try to survive in this algorithmic environment.
Amazing. And it's interesting how, for us who are based in like media departments, this revival some of the classical theoretical dilemmas of media studies, media communication studies, like how on one hand, how platform power or how platform are affecting people, and there's a lot of research on it. And in the recent years, we are seeing more how people are dealing with platforms. I can put at the same table beyond your own book, Inácio Sila's book, launched last year with like similar topic with empirical research in Costa Rica. And for me, one of the most original contributions of your book is this notion of moral economy of algorithm agencies, and what is this moral economy of algorithm agency, and why do you find this moral economy perspective is important for the field?
Yes, this question, why we talk about moral economy. We talk about moral economy of the users and of the platforms because this is something that was grounded in our data. When we started to analyze, to understand, to look at the conversations that gig workers, political activists, platform workers in general had in the private chat groups to which we had access. Many of them, many times, were discussing moral issues. For example, they were discussing how, if the platform, they were discussing the policies of the platforms, and they were discussing if they were legitimate or not. So there was all these conversations, according to our analysis, were infused and were characterized by a moral dimension. So these let us think about that maybe we were hypothesizing that maybe people have a moral idea of this platform economy. And we started to go back. So we firstly went back to Thompson. And Thompson, we know that he argues that human agency can be influenced by different moral economies. Distinguishing these economies is important because it helps us understand the different reasons and values that drive human agency. So our first proposal is therefore to distinguish the various forms of human agency available in coping with algorithms, what we have called algorithmic agency, along a continuum that is shaped by moral values. So agency can be exerted from different moral economies. So it can be influenced by different kind of values. So in a very simplistic and ideal-typical way, we have sketched two different kind of moral economies. The platform moral economies and the user moral economies. So what is our main argument is that people exert agency, are able to make something to the algorithm. So they do not they are not only influenced by algorithms, but they are able to influence algorithms from different kind of values. For example, there are people that completely adhere and do not put into question the platform moral economy that is centered on neoliberal values, free market, individualism, consumerism, data extractivism, optimization of performance, self-entrepreneurship, meritocratic ideology, authentic competition. These values that are encoded in the platforms produced by the tech companies are not put into question by many users. That are still able to accept their agency, but according to the values, according to the rules of the platform, of these platforms. On the other side, we discovered that among gig workers, influencers, and political activists, there were a lot of people that contested these values, that contested the rules and the way these platforms work. So these kind of moral economies are centered on mutual support, cooperation between users, struggle organization, strong sense of solidarity. And this is pretty interesting because in an environment, for example, we studied a lot, we focused on gig workers or the food delivery sector. And these economies and this kind of platform work is organized around first competition, meritocratic ideology, gamification. So the tech companies design platforms to structure to enable individualism and to enable competition. But what is really interesting is that notwithstanding this environment, this strongly competitive environment, people are able to build mutual support networks. So they are able to organize not only solidarity, not only are able to exert agency, but they are also able to organize resistance, struggle, and protest.
Great. I really like this approach, and especially this mood case studies of your book. I'd like to say hello to Emiliano Trere, reader at Cardiff University. Hello, Emiliano.
Hi, Rafael. So nice to see you. And Tiziano, but with Tiziano, we've been seeing each other quite a lot. With you, we haven't. So it's great. Now, thanks a lot for the invitation to participate in this great series of interviews and to chat about our books.
Exactly. I would like to ask you, Emiliano, about why you write this book. Like, you have a lot of collaboration already with Tiziano, as you already mentioned. Why to write this book? Like, if you like to introduce properly yourself to our audience for free.
Yeah, as well. Thanks a lot. So, as far as the introduction goes, I'm Emiliano Trere. I'm a reader in data agency and media colleges at the Cardiff University School of Journalism, Media and Culture, called JOMEC for brevity reason. And I'm also the co-director of the Data Justice Lab, where we research the social implication of datification, the political impact, and so on. And with Tiziano, we have one of them, I'd say it's the most fruitful collaboration of my career so far. It has become this because we started from, and this goes into the direction of why writing this book. I think why, because we clicked immediately. We were in Siena. The original excuse was a talk and, of course, having a lunch together, Italian style. And having some red wine and celebrating life, but it became something more because we started to see that Tiziano comes from a cultural studies background. He analyzes music and streaming platforms, social impact, the algorithms that govern these platforms. And I was coming, as you know, from a social movement, protest kind of background, and looking at, for a long time, I've been looking in Mexico when I was there as an associate professor, and then in general in other countries, especially Southern Europe, how algorithms shape protest, how algorithms shape activism. So our encounter was really just something that happened in terms of why don't we join forces together and do something around both culture, protest, and then, as Tiziano was saying to you before, adding another ingredients, which of course is the gig work and the work social domain, where the impact of algorithms is even felt more strongly because basically they are governed by algorithms. And I think the main takeaway of the book is that, as Tiziano was arguing, these are forms of resistance that are totally endemic every day, but they also are everywhere. There are ubiquitous forms of resistance and agency. They navigate all the social sphere, all the social domains of our lives that are now almost completely pervaded by algorithms. So I think that's one of the main takeaway of our work. And so, the collaboration was quite spontaneous. It was going in the direction of, like, this is where, social science should look now. This is algorithms are all around us, so let's try to investigate their impact in so many different kind of social domains. Of course, there are many more. I mean, we're limited in a way, everybody is, but I think this is the first work, as far as we are concerned, that digs into not just gig work, not just culture, not just protest. There are works that do this job in each of every domain, but overall, this kind of holistic view, I think we were the first ones to show that this is actually something that goes beyond, and yeah, so this was our intent, and I think we we managed to achieve it. Yeah.
Of course. And I'd like to know from you, like this kind of relationship between social movements theory and platform studies, or social movement studies and platform studies, is really like productive and a good research agenda for us. And you make a great connections between those things in terms of organizing protests and also the cooperative affordances, as Tiziano is saying before. And can you tell us, like Emiliano and Tiziano, about this relationship between social movements and platform studies, and how this research agenda can be important for us?
Well, it's kind of an elective affinity, I would say. I always say that the first time that I started to look at algorithms in the field of contention politics, of grassroots communication, it was because I encountered algorithms on the field. I was researching Mexico, and well before what everybody knows now, like as the 2016 election of Trump, where all of a sudden everybody was like, there are bots around, there are like far right using this. Well, in Mexico, 2009, 2010, they were already crafting these automated accounts, bot, fake trolls, whatever, and algorithms were at the center already of the political kind of agenda and the shaping what we know now as algorithmic politics. So when we started to look at this together with Tiziano, we recognized that, and we have an article in Social Movement Studies about that, part of a bigger special issue about data and social movements, like of Stefania Milan and Davide Beraldo and Cristina Flescher-Fumenaya. So the point is exactly that algorithms, we argue, are added to the repertoire of social movements. Social movements has always been at the forefront of innovation. They don't have a lot of resources. They innovate. They do whatever they can with the media that they have at their disposal. And they have been one of the first to use algorithm to their own advantage in many different ways. And of course, Twitter, now X, was one of the platforms where social movements like the Indignados in 2011 were able to look at the Twitter algorithms, I mean, not directly, but to try and error, and see that it was rewarding newness, it was rewarding collectively launching trending topics, and they were able to be absolutely incredibly successful in having trending topics, and that become a kind of a modus operandi of politics then with Podemos, but of course with other movements. Look at Occupy, and then Black Lives Matter, and then different movements around the world. And so I think that if you look at social movements, you will find it's like looking at technological innovation. So that was quite, let's say, the place to look at is quite a natural place for looking at the innovation in technology and in so-called technopolitics, right? But of course, there is also the other side of the coin, which is more institutional forces using that, which we also analyze. So there's a lot of automated accounts from institutional forces that have more power, more resources, also as Tiziano was saying before. And so it's always this contested battleground that we want to, every domain is a contested battleground. It's constant negotiation. And of course, we don't cast a romantic view of that. We know that the forces at play, social movements has less resources, more creativity maybe, but at the same time, it's always kind of catching up with the big players. But it doesn't mean that the practices that they do are completely, completely unhelpful or completely lost. I mean, they are really, really effective in some cases. They are really able to leverage and scale up, and they, especially from the global south, incredible creativity, incredible resourcefulness, and incredible push towards innovation, and this is what we do. We map the terrain of this contested battlefield.
Amazing. I really like this approach of platforms as battlegrounds, and not romanticizing. It's easy to mobilize, especially these days. I can remember from my own research on Click Farms, and they did a 2-day strike from YouTube channels and so. But the difficulty is to have organizing in a more long term. This is one of the challenges we have. For Tiziano now, I'd like to know one specific case about the influencers or social media content creators. What do you find most interesting in terms of tactics and resistance from influencers or this cultural production side?
Interesting for two different reasons. One is that we found in this case to what Emiliano already said, that this the emerging of tactics and strategies to game the algorithms and put them at work for personal or collective aims of the users is endemic. So we found these tactics everywhere among the cultural workers, the platformized cultural workers, the gig workers, and the political activists. And this is a shared feature. What is a specific feature of the practices, the gaming practices, and the resistance practices among Instagram content producers was the specific kind of solidarity that emerges from these engagement groups. So we distinguished the solidarity emerging among gig workers, for example, of the food delivery case history, and the solidarity emerging among Instagram content producers. This kind of solidarity is more similar, is closer to the solidarity described by Soriano and Cabañas in their study of the freelance platform workers in the Philippines. So it's a solidarity that they call entrepreneurial solidarity, a kind of solidarity that do not really question the structure and the values of the platform. It's not a radical form of solidarity, and it's also a pre-political form of solidarity. Even if these practices can really damage these platforms, because engagement groups are able to inflate and to produce, to increase visibility without spending money on the promotion of their contents. So this is a specific, I think, to this kind of domain. These are a kind of solidarity that is not resistential or radically political. While in the gig workers domain, we found more structural and more radical forms of solidarity, of collective solidarity, mutual aid support. But what these domains have in common, a common feature to all the practices that we have observed, not only the engagement groups, not only the gig workers' strategies or the political activist tactics, but all of them have share not only similar ways of exerting agency. We demonstrate in the book that everyone, every users can exert a different kind of agency according to different availability of time, expertise, and money. So not everyone has the same power to exert agency. So agency exists, but it can be exerted according to different capitals available to the users. But a common feature of all these case histories is a cooperation. So cooperation is a word. Algorithmic agency is rarely exercised in complete solitude, carried out by a single individual without the help of partial cooperation of some other person. So, notwithstanding this highly competitive environment that these platforms have built, have designed in their apps, people still try to cooperate. There is no agency exerted by a single individual, or even individual tactics are learned in a collective environment through cooperation, discussion. So people demonstrate that they still are able to resist these individualistic and competitive ethos encoded in the platforms. So for this reason, I think that our moral economy concept is relevant, because we demonstrate that all artifacts not only encode a specific politics, as Langdon Winner showed in his classic paper, Do Artifacts Have Politics? But we could say that artifacts also carry out specific moralities, specific moral views, how people, our users should behave within those environments. But at the same time, people, like in the Stuart Hall theory of encoding and decoding, people are able to decode platforms' moralities and to resist these platforms in ways that are similar to the they can negotiate this morality, but they also openly resist and oppose this morality, or in many cases, they can just adhere to these hegemonic moralities encoded in the platforms.
Amazing, Tiziano. And I would like to recommend for the audience the article Cooperative Affordances written by you both, and many other articles, many other authors published in Convergence Journal. And there are a lot of core concepts that we need to learn from your response, like solidarities, agency, tactics, strategies, resistance. And this resonates a lot also with the Latin American cultural studies and media studies, like the classic work by Martin Barbero. And this is really really resonate to us. So in the end of the book, you finish with a discussion on automation and the automated views, and also the algorithms. You said a lot about it, and looking forward, not only from the book perspective, but looking for our world nowadays, how to resist to automated social technical systems like so-called AI? Or what kind of resistance or tactics are you seeing in relation to AI context?
Well, I can start, and Emiliano will end with his take. We foregrounded in our book the everyday resistance tactics, these micro-resistance tactics, in a very inspired by James Scott concept of everyday resistance. Of course, we also highlight that these tactics are not enough. We also have been inspired by the work of Stuart Hall when he was talking about symbolic kind of resistance, no, in terms of the subcultural ways of resistance. These kind of resistance, everyday resistance tactics, are not able to subvert the power relationship of platform economy and platform society, of the power of big tech that is investing big money in artificial intelligence devices. So how to resist to these environment? So micro-resistance tactics are not enough, but it are the necessary condition and the starting point from which we have to begin if we want to build networks of resistance and networks of solidarity against this kind of power. So there is no kind of no revolution or radical rethinking of this economy that can start just from our intellectuals or criticals or critical scholars of platform society. We observed that people, gig workers and users, across a long time, across at least the 2 years of that we spent in the field, changed their mind. Many gig workers, for example, recognized and developed an awareness of their condition, of their precarious condition, when algorithms changed, when their incomes were put at risk. And we saw people that understood through the practice of everyday exploitation that they were exploited, and they understood that something need to change. And so when they felt that were this precariousness, they only at that very moment they started to build solidarity networks, and they started to resist and to try to game these algorithms. And this network of solidarity, in some cases, also brought these people to organize more political forms of resistance, more politicized forms of resistance, like rallies, protests, or forms of proto or trade unions or informal trade unions. And they also even founded new platform cooperatives. And in the case of for example, of gig workers, but also of Instagram, of content creators, there is a growing interest towards platform cooperatives that are not the only answer or the best or the solution to the platform economy, but it is a first move. So I think that micro-resistance is necessary because it's the proof that people are not passive, and that from that condition many more political actions and collective action could thrive.
Yeah, no, just to connect to what Tiziano was saying, I think it's important to recognize what he was saying just at the last part, which is that this level that we recognize, that we explore, that we map, that we exemplify, with so many different illustration, manifestation of agency and resistance, it's strictly connected to other levels of a manifestation of protest. Some are more traditional, street protest in the street, or hybrid protest, both online and offline, to stop, for example, facial recognition, protest campaign, and so on and so forth. But the micro resistance that we look at, it's intimately connected to this. And sometimes we could say that we look at the submerged networks of meaning and of resistance, using Malucci, the Italian sociologist, but that these sort of vertebrate, these are the backbone that could constitute and structure different kind of protests that are more visible, that are more under the lights of the media. But they don't originate from scratch. They originate from assemblages of micro resistance that somehow escalate sometimes. And while we look at ritual resistance, also to automation, and the frontiers show that this kind of everyday resistance, and we use Foucault to use it now, is going to be there, and that it's some kind of a hopeful view of the future from which we can imagine maybe more revolutionary forms of resistance as well. I mean, we don't say that resistance is not, that revolution won't be there. These are ritual forms of resistance, but maybe, just maybe, they can somehow be the seeds for something more. But we wanted to shed light on something that is not really illuminated for us. It's really unattended. But somehow it's really super important, because from these, it germinates, it thrives. There's something that is generated from this. And cooperation is key. Solidarity is key. Collectivity is key. And hopefully, something more. We see a lot of things coming from in the fields of art, in the field, new things are generated all the time that challenges these automated and AI systems. There's a bit of hope. We always jokes with Tiziano, it's not dark yet, but it's getting there. It's Bob Dylan's take on it. Not dark yet, but we're not. There's a bit of hope still. We're not so fully automated. So I think this is the message that we send.
Great, thank you so much. This is so important. Like some of the cases I am researching with, like the homeless worker movement in Brazil, the case of platform cooperatives in Brazil, a lot of collectivities, as you said, and the real collaboration and not the fakeness of the so-called sharing economy in the last decade. And so this is so important. So I strongly encourage all the audience to read this open access book, Algorithms of Resistance by MIT Press. So thank you so much, Tiziano and Emiliano. If you'd like to talk about your next research plans, or if you'd like to announce something, feel free to do it.
No, well, thanks a lot, obrigado, Rafael, for having us, and thanks also for MIT Press for making this open access. I mean, we couldn't have done it any other way, but that was really important for us. So you can just access the book, you can just download it. If you want to buy it, but it's there, it's there for everybody. So that's important. And me and Tiziano are still doing the tour of the book. So right now it's just, we're thinking of something, to kind of bring this to the next step. And right now we are interested, there's going to be an Italian translation. So that's really important for us. There's going to be a Greek translation, which we didn't foresee, but, thanks for the interest. And of course, if anybody is willing to have a Spanish or a Portuguese translation, we are really looking forward to having even more to spread the word around, and just feel free to reach out. And thanks for, giving a megaphone to spread the voice around, the word around the book.
Thank you, Tiziano.
Thank you, Rafael, for having us. And I want to close this session with this idea that with a Gramscian idea of these. I think that we showed the contested meaning of platforms, and platforms for us as a real battleground, as culture was a battleground for Stuart Hall, and these I think that we leave the reader with this optimistic view, but also with this not romantic view. No? So this in the spirit of Gramsci, we try to mix the optimism of the will with the pessimism of the reason. And that's I think that the spirit with which we should look at platform power, because if we look back to the history of the industrialization, we could think platformization not as a separate process of capitalism, but as another step in the long durée of the industrialization process. And what we learn from Thompson, for example, is that as workers and in the past were able to shape capitalism and industrialization, they were not only shaped by it. Look at the workerist studies from the Italian workerist scholars, that demonstrated how workers in the factories were able to shape industrialization process. At the same time, in this platformization process of society, we are not passive. So maybe we won't be able in the near future to subvert this power relationship, but as workers and users are shaped by platformization, they also shape this process through various forms of resistance and agency.
Great. And for our conversation with this Gramscian message, thank you so much, Tiziano and Emiliano, for having us. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. See you soon, hopefully in person next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.